Welcome to St. Vincent Center, also known as St. Vincent's Infant and Maternity Hospital, St. Vincent's Orphanage, St. Vincent's Infant Asylum, and St. Vincent's Maternity Home. I'm Lisa Francis, and I'm a social worker in post-adoption services. Today, we offer an inside look at St. Vincent's and invite you to meet some of the people who have called it home.
Catholic Charities has been very fortunate to be a part of the Daughters of Charity's history. From 1881 through 1972, St. Vincent's Orphanage was a part of providing support services to many children and infants and families in the Chicago area. Some mothers and fathers came needing a place for their children to stay that was safe. In some situations, birth mothers came and made a plan for their child after delivery for adoption.
The Daughters of Charity have provided care through war, the Great Depression, poverty, and epidemics. We want to acknowledge their important role not only in our history, but in Chicago history. Catholic Charities is privileged to have worked with the Daughters of Charity in caring for birth mothers, infants, and adoptive families.
And I was adopted from St. Vincent's in January 1950. I was born in December 1949 and went to St. Francis of Rome School for 8 years. And needless to say, I had a classmate who also was adopted and knew nothing about until 3 years ago. About 3 years ago, we happened to come for the St. Vincent Mass, and I was at the baptismal font, and Nick came by, and we looked at each other, and we both said, I think at the same time,
We did.
"What are you doing here?"
Exactly at the same time.
And he said, "I was adopted from here," and I said, "And so was I."
My name's John Hanley. This is my sister Rosemary. I was a child here. My mother contracted tuberculosis when I was born, and my father had 3 other children, all under the age of 4. And so they transferred me to St. Vincent's until he could get the family back together. So, and I was here for about a year.
Oh, I was so proud. I can remember walking down the street holding my mom's hand going, "I'm adopted," and I'd say it kind of loud so other people would hear it, and and it's silly, but that's what I remember. And I was always very proud that I was, because I thought it was a special thing, and it is. It's a very special thing to be adopted, and I tried to instill that into my children, because they're very special to me too.
I celebrated my first birthday here, and I have a picture of me with a big birthday cake.
Oh, wow.
And so that was we're not sure who took it, but it was a beautiful picture.
I grew up knowing from birth I was adopted and I was special. And, so I think that's my memorable thing, is just coming here for the first time. It was amazing, because I got to walk the halls and say, wow, these are the halls my birth mother walked through, and to walk through the door that this is where my mom and dad came to get me.
When you're in high school, you are thinking, what am I going to do? And I always had some leaning towards being a caretaker. I mean, I felt that early as a young person.
And I found out about a nursing program here at St. Vincent's, and I joined to come here in 1965. That's when we came. I graduated from high school and came here this September to start the program, and I graduated in 1966.
So it just appealed to me as a place I could go, and thinking about it, I don't remember it as because Johnny was here, but we had that connection. I knew that he was here, and so it was an interesting year to be down here. I was here from September of '68 till September of '69.
The neighborhood was not the best back then, And I come back now and I see all the tall buildings and the hotels and how beautiful it is. And it's just, it's a wonderful place. And here's St. Vincent's, just where it's supposed to be. It's always right here. Love the program. I love Sister Mary Alice. She handed me over to my parents when I was a baby.
And Sister Mary Alice, who was this abundant woman with abundant love and caring.
And of course, she was here when I came back to come to school, so I got to meet her, and it was very, excuse me. It's okay. That's okay. As you can see, it was very emotional for me. Sure.
Would literally come to the curb and greet us every year that we came here. Because her window looked right out onto LaSalle Street. I didn't figure all that out at the time, but all I remember is when she got a hold of me, you couldn't see me because she would just embrace us and just, oh, I can't breathe. It was very funny, but she was amazing. Then she would show us the office, and she always brought us around and showed us the new babies. But she made me feel good about this place. So I had no fear of coming here because I would sit on her lap and she asked me, how's am I doing? Now maybe I realized maybe my parents were getting checked out. I don't know. But anyway, they couldn't do enough for her, and she was just wonderful and has a history at this place that was world-renowned, as I understand it.
Rosie has a good story about
Yeah, and as a student here, you know, it was interesting, we were always assigned to different units. The units were broken up into ages of kids, and we also worked all different shifts. We would work days, evenings, or nights. And on the night shift, one of our chores was, you know, for the kids who needed the shoes, was we had to take out all the laces every night. We had to wash the laces, and we had to polish all the shoes every single night. Kids' shoes were polished. So, you know, I think that just showed just maybe, I don't know, an example that children were really taken well care of here.
I wanted to give back. I felt very grateful that I was adopted from here, and I just felt that I would like to give back to the other babies, that I was very fortunate to be from here. It would do my soul and my heart good to do that, so I did, and I'm very glad that I did. It's a big part of my life.
When I became confirmed in the Catholic faith, I took Vincent as my confirmation name. And my second boy, David, his middle name is Vincent. So there's a little connection there.
I'm kind of sad that there isn't St. Vincent's with the children anymore, because we just loved every one of those babies and those children so much.
My name is Terry Flannery, and I worked at, I can't call it work because it was never work. It was always a pleasure to come to St. Vincent's and to be with those babies.
Yeah, see, this is where the porch was. Is it still there? Yep. But look out there how different with all those high rises. See, that's it.
The year that I spent here was most wonderful. The nuns were so warm and welcoming. The babies were the sparkle of our lives. I can tell you that we would love these children as much as they were our own. When they were hurt, we were hurt. When it was their birthday, we'd make sure they had a candle on the cake or the cupcake for them or the Twinkie birthday.
Yeah, I just loved being with the kids. I mean, when I found out that there was a program called Child Care Day, I was so excited. I mean, I could not wait when I graduated high school to come, because I often took care of kids. I took care of kids. I had babysitting jobs a lot. And so to come and be working with them all the time, like Terry said, you didn't really feel like you were always going to work. Yeah. But they were all beds along here, and 3 babies to a unit, both sides.
But any baby coming from St. Joseph, any place came here.
Yeah. St. Joe's and Mercy, basically.
During our training, we lived at St. Vincent's at 721 LaSalle, and we worked all 3 shifts. Well, actually, there were more than 3 shifts, but we covered the 24 hours. We lived on the 3rd floor. Some rooms had 4 to a room, and then there was the porch that I believe had 8. We were there 6 days a week. We got 1 day a week off because we had classes 2 half days. The main thing was to take care of the babies, that they were taken well care of, and they were, fed and played with and loved. And we bathed them. They did all the things that a mother would do for her children. And we were taught how to do it properly. Like, all babies were held for their feedings. Propping bottles was not allowed. This is the medal that Father Coughlin gave us when we graduated. And we were also pinned. I don't know if you can see that. We received caps and pins. But Father Coughlin was the one who baptized all the babies who came through St. Vincent's. And he was our chaplain of St. Vincent's.
I always remember one night it was real cold out. At the end of the hall, south, I guess your first floor, down at that end, there was a baby left in the doorway there. Outside, but in the doorway. So somebody saw him, called the police, and they brought him in. Part always that I was like, they wrapped the babies in paper because the police were in their uniforms. And so whatever their clothes were, but they would wrap them in paper so they wouldn't get all wet. And once they came in, then I had to make sure they were taken care of. Smaller babies were left. We had them on the 1st floor, which we called ground in those days. And the smaller babies were there. Toddlers went to the 4th floor.
Then there was a special one in my heart, Danny. We nurtured him back to a healthy, chunky little boy, And when he went out for adoption, it was heartbreaking because I knew that I'd never see him again. And the nurses would often say, "Oh, Danny, this little special child is going out. I need to run to the store and get him a new pair of shoes or get him a religious medal to wear as they get baptized before they leave."
And these are the caps that were placed on the bottles.
Oh my gosh, that's right.
They were placed on the bottle. And this was my favorite little girl. And so these were her bottle caps I kept. And then they were on the bottle and the child's name was on it. So we knew which bottle to take.
Because each child was on a different type of formula. Sure. So you wanted to make sure, because some of them couldn't have, what was the brown?
And these, and these were on each of the cribs. This was their names.
Yes.
So when they went out for adoption, I would take their names and keep, because these were some of my favorite babies.
And then we would wrap it up and tuck it in.
All your hair would stay in, yeah.
Yeah. We were in the formula room or the milk lab and on 6 South in the newborn nursery.
Okay, and I'll get around to the back of that to see how you tucked it in.
Oh, I'd have to. It had a drawstring back, but I think we used to roll it up and just tuck it under. See if it'll stay. Sort of.
So that's,
I had the wonderful option of dressing the babies for adoption and bringing them down to the chapel and giving them to the adoptive parents. And nothing could be greater than that, to see these parents, how delighted they would be all the time. And we always put a miraculous medal on their shirt. And then after the adoptive parents saw them, we left them alone with the babies. And then after that, then they went downstairs, and then we dressed the babies in their clothes, and then brought them to the chapel here.
All the babies that came through St. Vincent's were baptized in the chapel, and the godmothers were the student nurses and some of the employees, but they were all baptized in the chapel. After an all-school reunion, my friends and I got together and we decided the stories of the children who had passed through the gates of St. Vincent's needed to be told. And we came up with several stories, contacted people, and in this book are their stories.
What would you say was your favorite part or the thing you enjoyed the most about being here, about your time here?
holding them and rocking them.
I was just gonna say,
When we would be able to rock them. Or,
I think that's true, just in general, caring for them and knowing them. And you're always happy when they got to go home with an adopted family. That was very special.
I remember the last day, I was the last one in the building.
That was in 72?
Yeah. So that day I just went from floor to floor.
Yeah, no, that's okay.
And just reminisce each of the units and what was going on each floor and picturing the kids, yeah, all of a sudden I'm like, there's nobody here. I mean, I could hear myself echo. Everybody had left. But I had to go through it again. I had to walk the unit again, so I just went through every place by myself. Literally every part of this building I was in. And then I went home, closed the door behind me.
And that was it?
That was the ending of her. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Doug.
And I'm Dawn, and we're the Arp family.
Right. We met over 30 years ago at work, right? But it wasn't until we were planning our marriage in 1989 that we realized how much more we had in common.
Yes.
And we found out that Father Coughlin baptized us on the same day in the same year. We were both children at St. Vincent's back in the early 60s until we were placed for adoption.
Yes.
So we want to thank all the sisters, the wonderful nurses, the
past
staff,
and present.
Right, past and present, who took wonderful care of us and all the children that were there under your care while St. Vincent's was active.